Then, so we proceed. Divide by semi-annually, comma, if our frequency key is equal to, monthly, fully locked, comma, we are going to take interest rate divide by 12 months in a year, comma, if our frequency key is equal to weekly, fully locked, comma, we are going to take annual rate divide by 52 weeks in a year. Then if it does not meet all those conditions, then it should give us an empty cell. If it does not meet all those conditions, then it should give us an empty cell. So what did we say about the empty cell that we expected to return to us? What did we say about the empty cell? Somebody, what did we say about the empty cell? If it does not meet all these conditions, what are we supposed to? We're supposed to put 0. Okay, somebody is saying 0. That's also an option. Another person, if we don't, it does not, yes, we insert space. So space is a special character. Space is a special character. So what are we supposed to do to that space? What are we supposed to do to that space? We are supposed to use bring quotation marks. So we have our quotation marks and insert space there. So when you close the bracket and end, close all the brackets that we opened, and then you enter. If you enter, you'll be able to see your interest rate indicated. Because we have semi-annually, it is dividing interest rate by 2. Because we've selected semi-annually, it is dividing interest rate by 2. And that's why if I now move to monthly, it will divide 14 by 12, and we are going to have that percentage. That's what we did the other day. So today, let's bring in the period. Let's bring in the period. So remember what you are doing. For period, what we are simply going to do, we are going to pick now rate. And sorry, we are going to pick the year. And instead of dividing, we are going to multiply. So this is what you can do. This is what you can do. I just come here. If it is equal to that, I'm going to change year. So I'm going to change that rate to year. And then I multiply them. I'm going to change my rates to year. I'm going to change my rates to year. Then I multiply by semi-annually. All my rates I'm going to change to year. Then the division sign, I'm going to change to multiplication sign. Then this last one, just come here, replace rate with year because I had already defined the name, and then I multiply by that. So this one here, I must put it in the correct number, not percentage. So let me come and pick number and reduce it to 0 decimal places or to the nearest whole number. So because I've chosen monthly and I have 5 years, it is taking 5 multiplying by 12. So by doing that, I've automated these two. That is, so if I change it to semi-annually, it will take number of years, multiply by 2, and interest rate divide by 2. So we've automated our keys. We've automated these two. So we are supposed to now move. Remember, there's something here which we also add. That is PMT, periodic payment. So how do we get periodic payment? We said is equal to, the formula is the same as that name, that is PMT. So what do we have as the rate? We use this automated interest rate, comma, number of periods, we have it there, comma, present value is the loan amount, comma, future value, we have 0, comma, and for this illustration, we said, we are going to use end of period. Roba is saying that repeat from start. Is it? I think I've been repeating what we did the other day. We've not started the new concept. We have been repeating what we did the other day. And then you close your bracket. And then you close your bracket. So if I enter, I'm getting a negative value, but I don't need this negative. So I just come to my formula here and introduce a negative sign to eliminate that negative value. So as you can see my screen, I now have the first part of my amortization schedule already completed. Yes, iPhone has rest. I don't know whether it's a gentleman or a lady. What's the issue, iPhone? I think up to this point, these things we did the other day. So we are supposed to start now for coming up with the schedule. Is it so? Is it so? Yes, thank you. So having done this, we are supposed now to come up with this column. So please, sorry, it was by mistake, okay? So let's now see how we are going to automate our loan schedule. Number one, we are going to start with the period column. Then we move to opening balance. Then we move to, from opening balance, we are supposed to move to periodic payment, that is PMT. Then we move to interest. What yes, you are interfering with things. But I believe these are the things we did the other day. I was just doing a recap. Number two, I did not save these things as I was doing them. So that's why I was bringing it to where we left this work. So whatever we are supposed to cover today starts from this point, not this other part. So after interest, let's make this one in brackets. IPMT. So we'll know what it means. After interest, we are going to have principal and then put it in brackets. PPMT. Close your brackets. Then we move to ending balance. Ending balance. So that's what we are supposed to have. So to expand all of them, just highlight the entire worksheet, then double click any parts. It is better you just do another example, otherwise most of guys will be left behind. So another example, I believe, for another example, I think you have a different value for the loan amount, is it? Okay, so we are repeating that. We are repeating that as we move forward. So one, have you been able to define the name of these cells? We said you highlight the all of these, move to formulas, then you say create from selection. Once it appears this way, you ensure that the box that is the left column box is marked. Why are we doing this? Ensure that the left column box is marked, then you say okay. We are doing that because we don't want to keep on referring to this and using the cell referencing. We just want to come here and we know this one here is the loan amount. So we just type loan and we get the value. We type here and then we get the value. That's what we are trying to do. So I want you to confirm to me if we are going to repeat. I believe the only part that is bringing problem is how to automate interest rate and period. That's where you have an issue. The other parts are okay. That's my assumption. How to create or define the name of the cell, I believe you know that. Where you have an issue is how to automate this interest. This one here, having type, you do the same. You highlight, you move to formulas, create from selection, then you ensure that the left column box is marked, not any other. Having done that, then you say, okay. So if I'm going to repeat, so I want to see you confirming that you now have this. Yeah, sure. Okay, so somebody saying that I should start from the start, and that is what we are doing. And also that's why I gave you the videos. Is it? So video was to help you understand what we did the other time. And then I also have just repeated what we did the other time. So I want to see, we have the items. So do you have the items that I have here without bringing in the formulas? Without bringing in the formulas. Have you now typed all these items that I'm referring to? These values does not have formula. These values does not have any formula with them. So do you have this? Remember these ones here we are typing manually. Are we all having this? Are we all having this in our screens? Are we all having this in our screens? Yes? I want to see everybody confirming that they have typed these values in their screen without any formula. Just type them manually the way they appear on my screen. Do the same on your side and confirm. Others have not been able to type those values in their screen. I can only see 10 people confirming that they have the values in their screen. I can only see 10 people confirming this. So having typed those values, I believe everyone has typed them. We are now supposed to highlight all of them. We want to change the name. Remember, if I place my cursor here, the name of the cell is B2. I want to change the name such that if I place my cursor here, it will not be B2. The name will change to loan. So what are we supposed to do? We highlight the whole of this. Then you move to formulas. In the formula section, you go to create from selection. Create from selection. And then you will see this menu appearing. So we are creating names from selection. We are creating names from selection. Somebody is saying that my audio has an issue. Are you able to hear me? So having done this, you now say, okay. We've now created the name of these cells by using the names in column A. So when I come here now, it is no longer B2, it is loan. When I come here, it is here. This one here, it is called rate. Here I have PMT, not B8. That's what we have done. You do the same to this other side. So highlight the whole of this, follow the same procedure, move to formulas, create from selection, ensure that left column box is marked, not any other box. Then you say, okay. So having done that, we've now defined the names of these cells. We've now defined the names of these cells. So we say, we now want to come here and create what we call drop-down list. This drop-down list should contain the names or these frequencies. Is it annually? Is it semi-annually? Is it monthly or weekly? That's what we are trying, or that is what we are now creating. That's what we are now creating. So how do we create that drop-down list? We use data validation. So just place your cursor here where you want to create the drop-down list. Move to data, and then you say data validation. It will bring you these three things. So let's move to data validation. In this section, we are allowing a list of items. Having allowed this list, we want, which list do we want? We now move to source. So which list do we need? We want to bring these items to be in our list, the frequencies. So we need the frequencies to be in our list. So highlight them, then you say, okay. If you do that, you will be able to see this drop-down list having the 3 names which you selected. That is annually, the 4 names, weekly. So these are the items that we have in our formula. So have you been able to create our frequency key? Confirm if you've now been able to create your frequency key. How many of us have been able to create their frequency keys? The drop-down list whereby you can now change from month to semi-annually, weekly. How many of us have been able to do that? Let me see those who are confirming that they have been able to create that. Cynthia is saying that I should repeat which specific part? Defining of the name or cell or data validation. Can we include the numbers? Can we include the numbers? The numbers must be included. That is what we are doing. We are changing the names here. Instead of this number being referred to as J2, it is now called annually. We highlight everything here. We highlight the name, the items in column A and column B. Just see what I'm highlighting. I'm highlighting the items in column A and column B, both words and numbers. Then we move to formulas. Create from selection. For data validation, that's what we are supposed to do. For data validation, this is what we are doing. We only need the names, and we are not even, we can even type these names manually in the formula. But because with the typing will take a lot of time and we already have the list here, we just come here, move to data validation, and then we want to pick a list. Which list are we picking? We have given now the source. So we only need the names, not the numbers. We only need the names. So we have these 4. That's what we are picking. Then we say, okay. So in doing that, we've been able to select the names. That's what we do under data validation. So have we been able to do that? Have we been able to do that? Okay, so let's now move to automating this too. We want to automate this too using if function. Remember when you are doing these papers, that is AFM, when you are coming up with a loan schedule, if you have been given 2 different interest rates to compare, you are doing the first one, you work out with it, then you again move to the second part and also use the other interest rate. So here we are trying to automate those interest rates. Once we have been given the annual rate, even if the payment is going to be made on annual basis, on monthly basis, on weekly basis, What we need to do is not to do another calculation of the same thing. We just come to this frequency key, adjust it and say it is needed on a weekly basis. We just type weekly and then it changes everything in our loan schedule table. That's what we are trying to do here. So for us to achieve that objective, we have to automate these two. We must change the annual rate and years to meet what is required here. If it is on monthly basis, we just come here and say monthly, then it will automatically adjust our interest rate to monthly. That is taking the annual rate dividing by number of months in a year. For the period, it will take the number of years multiplied by the frequency, which is number of months in a year. That's why we are having these two. So how are we going to convert them? We are going to use if function. We are going to use if function. And we are saying equal to if. So it is this key that we are automating, the frequency key. So we are saying if our frequency key is marked or checked to be equal to annually, if our frequency key is checked to be annually, fully locked, comma, we are going to take our annual interest rate, which is 14. We divide by number of years in 1 year, which is 1, the frequency, comma, that is option number 1. Option number 2, if our frequency key is checked to be equal to semi-annually, because that is the list which is here, comma, then we will take the annual rate, divide by the number of half years in a year. And how many are they? There are 2. Where do we get that 2? Here. So it is taking the annual rate, dividing by frequency, which is semi-annually. That semi-annually is represented by the number 2, comma, if our frequency key here is checked to be equal to monthly, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to take the annual rate, then we divide by frequency, that is number of months in a year, which is 12. So before I do the last one, how many of us have the same list as what I have? How many of us have the same list as what I'm displaying on my screen? They have been able to insert the annually, semi-annually, and monthly. How many of us? Confirm. Techno is lost. I don't know where you are. On frequency part, I have cell name. On frequency part, I have cell name. So when you are defining that part, you did not get the name. Well and good. If the frequency part, you don't have the name of the cell, you can fully dollar reference. You can fully dollar reference that. Just say B9 fully locked is equal to I2. B9 fully locked is equal to I. Some people are telling me that even up to that point, they are still lost. Some people are telling me that even up to where I've reached, they are lost. Which specific part are you not getting? Which specific part are you not getting? Which specific part are you not getting? Interest rate, that is what we are doing. Interest rate is what we are doing. Your laptop can't insert if. You cannot insert if without one, starting with an equal sign. Two, you cannot insert another if. You cannot start another if without inserting comma. The other problem is here. Let's have this first one. We are saying that if our frequency key is equal to I2, which is annually, comma, we are supposed to take annual rate, then divide by this. Then divide by this one here. We divide by this. And see what I've displayed. I've completed that first part. I'm saying in my formula, if function is telling me logical test. So what is the logical test? Here, I'm saying that if frequency is equal to I2, comma, then I will take rate, divide by annually. That one is done. I'm through with that concept. So for me to bring in another if function, I must place comma. So whoever is not able to insert the second comma, that's where your problem is. Do we type rate and annually or select? They are already there. You just select them. We created them when we were doing what we call name creation. We were defining the names. So we defined the name of the cells. But if you are not able to define the name of the cells, well and good, you are going to use what we call cell referencing. You are going to lock everything. You are going to use the dollar signs. I manage without defining the names. If you did it without defining the names, then you are doing what we call, you are just using the dollar signs. Number two, remember we are not going to drag these formulas. So whether you define the name, whether you lock the cells, you are still going to get the answers. Are we together? Okay, someone, HP is saying that I should give someone to try. Let's see, let's allow somebody to share his or her screen and we see what is going on. How do we insert the dollar sign? Techno, how do we insert the dollar sign? Somebody to respond to this. How do we insert the dollar sign? So have that. So I believe all of us are now able or have been able to create these names or these columns here. So I want us to start. I want us to start. Type 0 there manually. Have your 0. Have your 0 there manually. Then we will have, so let's do this. Let's do this. Change your frequency key to annually. Change your frequency key to annually. Just go there and pick annually. So let's have 0. 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 So we want now, please wait a bit. Just have 0, or just do the series fill of these numbers 0 to 5. Have 0. Let's have 0 to 6. Have 0 to 6. Have 0 to 6. So some people will be doing this, but I believe you now know the shortcut of doing this, doing the numbers. So after having 0 to 6, after having 0 to 6, in period 0, our ending balance, pick the loan amount. In period 0, our ending balance is loan amount. So just say equal loan, and it will give you this. So this ending balance in period 0 will be the opening balance in period 1. So say equal to this. I believe we are moving together. PMT, periodic payment. Do we have it here? Yes. So just say equal to this value, and we'll see it inserting that formula. And it is constant, it will not change. So even if you do it that way, it will remain the same amount. Okay, so opening balance, we can also autofill to that last part. How about interest, which is IPMT? Before we move to interest, I want you to confirm to me if you've inserted those things. You have opening balance, you have ending balance, and you have 0 to 6 in period column. How many of us have done that? How many of us have done that? There's an issue on PMT. When I change the frequency, there's an issue in PMT when you change the frequency. Which issue? If it is not giving you the value, number one, you did not define it. So if I come to my PMT, it is referring to number one, interest rate. If I refer the first thing, interest rate, it is picking this. Number two, period, it is picking this. And then loan, the loan amount there. Then we have 0 and 0. If you don't have a value for PMT, if you don't get any value for PMT when you change your frequency, then you did not include annually when you are creating this. You did not include annually somewhere. Or when you are doing your interest rate, you don't have annually. That's why when you bring it to annually, it is giving you 0. So how many of us have been able to have this? How many of us have been able to reach this point? Are we all at this point? Are we all at this point? Okay. So I believe FR staff, you've identified where you went wrong. Let's now come to interest column. We have two ways of working out interest. Number one, we can say equal to, we have interest function in our Excel. So the last thing there, as you can see my screen, the last value there, the opening balance, I'm not getting the zeros. Yeah, because you've not autofilled your formula to the last point. That is what we need to have here. Whoever is not getting zeros, this is what is happening. You've inserted this first one. You've said it is equal to this. But for you to get the other zeros, you have to autofill it. Is that okay, Martin? Okay, so let's proceed with this interest rate. Sorry, let's have this. So how do we get interest? We take opening balance and we multiply by interest rate. We take opening balance, then we multiply by interest rate. So what is our opening balance? It is this one here. When we multiply by interest rate, where do we get our interest rates? It is this one here. Then you enter. So interest rate for period one or interest is 28,000. How do we get principal? Remember, periodic payment includes principal amount and the interest there. So how do we get principal when we have interest and periodic amounts? How do we get principal when we have interest and periodic amount? Somebody? PMT contains interest and principal. And now we have PMT and interest. How are we going to get principal? How are we going to get our principal? We subtract is equal to PMT minus interest. That is it. How do we get our ending balance now? Our ending balance is equal to opening balance minus principal amount. Opening balance minus principal amount will give us ending balance. Somebody has not understood this. How do we get interest? Is equal to interest rate multiplied by opening balance to give us interest. And since periodic amount contains interest and principal, and we now have interest, we can get principal by saying it is periodic amount minus interest for us to get principal amount. How do we get ending balance? Ending balance is equal to opening minus principal amount. Then you say enter. So if you check here, we now have the values. So you can just autofill them to that last part. And you'll be able to see that in the last year, we have 5 there. In the last year, that is 5th year, our ending balance will be 0 because we shall have paid the entire loan amount. You shall have paid the entire loan amount. That's why we have 0 in period 5. Opening balance ilikuwaje 0? Okay. Opening balance was not 0. We said in period 0, our ending balance is this. How do we get this? It is the loan amount here. That's why when you place your cursor here, it is referring to loan. That's what we have there. So opening balance in period 1 is this ending balance. And then we have our periodic amount, which we referred to from here. And then we have interest and principal. So if you check this way, or this method that we have used to get our interest, we've said it is the interest rate multiplied by opening balance. That method is not automated. We want now automate that. So let's just do away with that method which is not automated. So we are going to use whatever is in bracket. If you see the name of interest, in bracket we have IPMT. That IPMT will help us to get the same interest amount that we got when we are using the manual method. So how are we going to do it? We say equal to IPMT, and it appears there. So in this IPMT function, which item are we required to insert here? Rate. Do we have the rate? Yes, it is this one here, the interest rate, comma, period. It is period 1. We pick that. Period, it is period 1.